Whether he's removing his face or on a criminal plane or a historical chase, we love Nicolas Cage. Star of screen and stage, gonna watch him all day while he's a screaming with rage, cause we're unlocking the cage.
Hello and welcome to the Academy Awards. We are your hosts, Meg and Chris.
Welcome. It's a
as
low
you can
budget
see-
Academy Awards this year. It's
Yes.
only one movie we're reviewing.
Yes, this is a single movie. We are going to determine if it wins Best Picture. The field is very limited this year. It's just this movie. So how are you doing, Chris?
I'm doing good. I'm feeling good. We had a bike ride today. Life is starting to turn around. Things are starting to get nicer. You get outside, feeling a little that free air. I don't know.
I mean, speak for yourself. I fell off the bike twice, as you know.
She did.
I did fall
She
off the
fell
bike
off.
twice.
She didn't even get on. She fell while getting on a bike.
Twice. Two separate occasions.
Got to get your sea legs again.
Yeah, I know it's been a while.
I haven't been outside in a long time. So,
well, I've been outside. I just haven't been on a bike. My bike is like a man's bike, so I have to like really kick my leg up, and if I don't get enough altitude, I fall over. So anyway, we're here to talk about what's so funny.
It's the odd start to the show. That's all. We never do this kind of.
I think we should. I think
very graceful. You're very graceful.
Thank you. Thank you. Biking is an extreme sport. Thank you to our guest who is also on the Zoom. We'll see her in a second. So if you're listening to this in podcast form, you know it. You already know it. We are a show that watches and ranks every single one of Nicolas Cage's 100+ movies. Hey, Rachel. Rachel Annelman just said, hi, guys, on the chat. So we record live every Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific time on twitch.tv/managerscomedy. If you are listening to this and you want to watch the visual version of it, you can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/managerscomedy. We're going to spoil the movie today, but you don't care because this movie is bad and you probably have never watched it unless you are either of us and our guest.
If you were maybe fully paralyzed and somehow this came on a television and you couldn't change it.
You have no other option. All right. Let's bring out our guest, Chris. We have with us today comedian and Renaissance woman, Shiyan. Hi, Shiyan.
Friend.
Hello.
How's it going?
I'm well. How are you?
So good.
Awesome.
So
we're all like, oh boy. Oh, this
we're just getting ready for what.
Rip the Band-Aid off. Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, Shiyan, tell us about your history with Nicolas Cage. Are you a super fan? Have you seen a lot of Nicolas Cage's movies? What's your background there?
I think I've seen a fair number. It's always, the thing of wanting to see Nicolas Cage be Nicolas Cage in a movie. That's always fun for me. I enjoyed such vehicles as I just lost the title. Is it National Treasure?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a fun romp. Hey, let's do it. The one where I think there are two different movies where he sees the future, or he touches someone and they see the future, or whatever. The one with Jessica Biel, and there's another one. I'm like, yes, I'm all for it.
Wait, you see in the future in another one?
I feel like,
is that Knowing?
There's Knowing and there's Next, which
you're right. Knowing.
It sound the same.
Man.
Yeah, it's very similar. And that's kind of what got me into this particular movie for the day, because I was looking for similar things, and the synopsis for this movie sounded very similar to Taken, and I thought, this will be a Taken knockoff. That'll be fun.
Oh boy.
So they're actually, I was looking this up because I saw he has this movie which is called Rage, or if you're in Europe, it's called Tokarev, which is a lot easier to Google. So I use that a lot.
Frankly, it's a better title.
I think so too. I think making a movie that has the same title as a lot of other stuff is going to cause you some problems.
That would have given them like a $50,000 bump in the box office if they called it Tokarev. Just the confusion alone would have gotten people in the door, I think.
Hey, who's that? Is it a person? Is it a gun? What's going on?
It sounds kind of cool. Yeah.
It's fun. It's a more fun title.
Yeah.
But so there's also another movie called Stolen, starring Nicolas Cage.
There is not. You're lying.
I swear to God, and it's about his daughter is stolen and taken for ransom.
No, she isn't.
Yes.
Get out of here. What?
And then wait, but the plot of that movie is he's the world's greatest robber, I believe. In order to get his daughter back, he has to pull off. They make him do a heist, right, Meg? It's something like that. So that's why it's called
according
Stolen
to the Wikipedia page, yeah.
versus
Okay.
Taken. I think I watched the preview
boy.
of this. I'm ready for that one. That one's
I
coming.
guess I
down
have
the
to
pipe.
watch that now. I'm all in. Let's do it.
Well,
Yeah.
the question for this is, does the daughter survive? Because I have not seen the Taken movies. In the Taken movies, I assume the daughter is not immediately murdered.
Yeah, I
That would be a
imagine
good.
not.
Yeah, you've not. Neither of you have seen Taken.
No. Have you,
Okay.
Chris?
No, I've never seen any of them.
Yeah, it's yeah, she is found. She's taken.
And then she
the
is
line
taken
that
back.
everyone knows exactly. The line that everyone knows is that I will find you and I don't know. I have considerable skills. It's going to be awesome. Blah blah. And so that happens. He's able to finally get her back, and then the sequels are essentially, you took from us, and now we're going to fight you. So it's just like fighting around the world because he took back his daughter. That was initially.
Oh,
taken.
they don't keep taking her every one.
They don't keep taking her.
Oh, okay.
No.
I was gonna say
The sequels are more like consequences of the first film as opposed to repetitions of the
Wow.
initial inciting incident.
Man.
They just keep taking.
He's like, I
No
thought
take backs. Wait.
Man, I thought like the first time, fool me once, shame on me.
Take my daughter once, shame on you. Take my daughter twice, shame on me.
Oh boy,
that's what we always say.
Can I have a vote for this movie that I just want to sum up the plot. I don't want to get.
Yes.
I'm gonna sum it up in like 2 sentences.
Do it.
Guy who used to be a criminal goes straight. His daughter gets taken one night. They don't know why. They find her dead. He assumes it has something to do with an incident from his past, so he rages out and starts killing mobsters. Turns out, just an accident with a gun. The end.
That's it.
That's the movie.
Yeah.
Refreshingly simple plot. I will say that's one good thing it's got going for it.
I don't want to get bogged down in that.
There's nothing. Honestly, there's nothing to get bogged down in. It's just a series of him trying to murder people and usually succeeding. So let me give you guys a little background on the movie just so you can see where this fits into the world. So this was from 2014. I believe this is right around the middle / beginning of Nicolas Cage's just real bad streak in terms of finances and movies. Like this is like the Left Behind era. Like there's just not a lot of stuff that I recognize basically up until Mom and Dad, which is I think 2017 is when things start getting like a little more interesting again.
And he looks like real bad.
Yeah, he seems like he's having a rough time. So
that wig is oof. In this one, this is a real bad wig. Like there's some bad wigs, and this is a real bad one.
It's a rough one. I don't know what's going on in his life. But yeah, so it was made for $25 million. It had limited theatrical release, but mostly VOD, video on demand, made $2 million worldwide. So not a huge success. Do you guys want to guess what the Rotten Tomatoes score is? Just off the top of your head.
4.
I'm going to say 25%.
Well, you're right. We're both are. It's right in the middle that it's 12.
We did it, Chris.
You guys did it. You triangulated it. And it was directed by a Spanish director named Paco Cabezas, who made a movie called, the only movie of his that looked vaguely familiar to me was called Mr. Right, which stars Sam Rockwell and Anna Kendrick and appears to be
I have seen that film.
Yeah, was it good?
I sure have. Yeah, it was a very, it's not like, a cinematic treasure, but like it was fun. It's a lot of Sam Rockwell dancing because he enjoys doing that in films apparently. So he just does that a lot, and like very silly occurrences. Like he's just like so smart that he basically moves at super speed, and it's fully ridiculous. And Anna Kendrick's character makes no sense, but it's like, okay, sure, this is a movie. And I was like, this is enjoyable. That's very funny to me that he made a movie where people had conversations that made sense and scenes cut from one to another, and it was easily easily followed. And he also made this film where at one point we're in the present and then we're in the past, but it's not at all clear. And transitions are like razor sharp in that they don't make any sense and you almost get whiplash from them.
Yeah, those editing jumps, like what's going on in this movie? Oh my god.
How was the acting in Mr. Right? Because I thought this movie had some of the worst acting I've ever seen.
I didn't feel that from Mr. Right. It wasn't a slog. Yeah, okay. It was enjoyable. It was like these people are weird and they have interesting ways of being, but it was like very fun. Spoiler alert for 2015 movie Mr. Right. There's a bad guy that like
oh, we got a follower.
Oh, hi.
Thanks.
Welcome. There's a guy on the bad side, the bad guy who just strikes up a friendship with Sam Rockwell's character, and by the end they're like on the same, they're like aligned, and it's just like cute. Like it's very fun writing and weird characters that you don't see in the real world, but they're fun to watch.
I think this is yet another in the ever-growing pile of reasons why after this is over, we need to do this, but with Sam Rockwell.
Yeah,
it just keeps happening.
Our Matchstick Men episode, we dug real deep into the Sam Rockwell, if you will.
Oh, heyo.
Oh boy.
I call Moon if you do that.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's a good one. Yeah. All right, so Shiyan, just in general, so your overall thoughts on this movie?
It was the longest hour and a half that I have ever endured. I kept checking the time. I thought it would be, like we said, I thought it would be Taken, but with Nic Cage, and very quickly, it was not that.
What?
And at the end of it, I had a couple feelings, and they were mainly the movie should have been called Sadness or Guilt. And I've never been sadder to see Peter Stormare in a movie because he was barely there and didn't get to like be his full self, in my opinion.
What was that Irish accent or whatever he was working with?
And yeah, because I know for a fact that you watched the only other Peter Stormare movie that we've watched, which is 8mm, right?
Yeah, I did watch that.
He was a lot. He was a lot more interesting, at least, right?
He was, yes. As much as that movie probably will scar me forever, at least Peter Stormare was like Peter Stormare.
There you go.
That's me dealing with watching that movie.
This movie like sets itself up to be Taken, and then you're like, okay, so it's not Taken, it's John Wick, right? Because it sets it up to be John Wick, except the girl is the dog of John Wick, and then it just doesn't deliver.
Is the dog.
Well, basically, like a revenge movie where
it
does not deliver on any of those things. It's none of those things.
Did also have, I was like, this just makes me wish for John Wick. It makes me wish for Taken. I think there's at least one. It made me wish for the trailer of the Bob Odenkirk movie. That's basically
Nobody.
Thank you,
John
because
Wick.
We should talk about that as well. So, have you seen that? Have you seen the movie you're talking about? Is Nobody? Have you seen that yet?
Nobody. I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, so Chris and I watched that, and there was a lot of similarities between this movie and that movie.
Yeah.
I did not like Nobody. I thought it was not very fun.
You
and
did like not like No One.
No. Chris,
wait, what?
The movie's called Nobody. What are you talking about?
No, movies can't call people their movies. What are you talking about?
The movie's called Nobody. Nobody is the movie.
Third base. We get it.
I didn't care for that movie. I thought it was hyper violent and I would say this movie was a lot more watchable in terms of the violence for me because it was so cartoony and like there wasn't anything that was super disturbing. Yeah. Like in Nobody, there's a lot of gross stuff that happens.
Have you seen John Wick though?
Oh yeah.
Yes. And that's also
and you didn't find that.
Yes, but it was also an interesting, fun movie. So I was willing to be like, okay.
I think it's the attitude with which it's approached in Nobody is like, it's off-putting because I think it's him trying to do a comedy, Yeah. But it's more like, it's just like kind of trying to be a little comedic, but with this like, all right, crazy graphic violence. And then Christopher Lloyd comes out and anyway. We shouldn't spoil that movie too, because that one's still in theaters.
Christopher Lloyd.
The only thing,
Christopher Lloyd is the
best part of the movie.
He's the best.
If you guys, for our listeners, if you guys are thinking about watching 2021's Nobody. Don't do that. Watch the movie Shoot 'em Up instead. It's a great movie and will fill all the needs that you are looking for and will not find in that movie.
Save that $20 and wait till it comes out for free. Anyway,
duly noted.
That's my opinion. So, yeah. So, usually we kind of roughly go through this via the plot. So
let's get into this bullshit. All right. First off, do you guys remember at the top of the movie when he's at some kind of ribbon cutting? Meg and I looked at each other and were like, is he the mayor of this town? Which they never say where they are, by the way.
They do not.
So this was filmed in Mobile, Alabama. So I'm assuming that's where it takes place. Our listeners will recall that last episode's movie also took place in Mobile. I'm saying it wrong, probably Alabama, which is Con Air, which takes place in a lot of places, but that is where that's where his wife lives. But yeah, no, I thought he was the mayor. I was like, is he gonna be the mayor? That's fine.
Yeah, it wasn't clear, and then they clarified who the mayor was. I did think it was, I don't know, I clocked that it was a little odd to me that the mayor was speaking and then he went to speak and he just kind of like, they kind of like shuffled past each other. Like, are they not gonna interact? Like there's no like eye contact or like anything. And at the end they shook hands. I'm like, okay, cool. So they, at least they are in the same like world, but it was a little odd to me. And frankly, that was like a harbinger of things to come, because the way that like ethnicity and like diversity is dealt with in this film is so weird, but like needlessly so. They like went out of their way to be like really rude and like slightly racist or just fully racist, and I was just like, I'm confused as to why.
I mean, there's this whole tension too between like these characters that are ostensibly Irish and then like the Russian mob. So it's like a lot of like, white people fighting each other and hating each other for sure. I didn't feel like the cat. Yeah, it wasn't a super diverse cast for sure.
Oh no, not at all. Well, the fact that you mentioned it was in Alabama, I was like, I don't know, maybe that's the one like town in Alabama that's like less diverse than everything else, because I wouldn't have expected it to be there at all.
Well, for the first beginning part, I was like, oh, this is definitely Eastern Europe, because that one bartender who was like had a bizarre accent and he's friends with, who's like definitely a stuntman, like the Silver Fox stuntman guy.
Yeah.
Who had like I don't know where he was from, Austria, whatever accent. I'm like, oh, they just got a bunch of people from Eastern Europe. But then I was like, oh wait, there's some non-white people in the background, so this has to be somewhere else. And then I guess I did not figure Mobile, Alabama for like 1 second.
So we are he's working for the mayor in some capacity. We'd never learn anything about that. He's got his two buddies in the Irish bar that they hang out. Like when they were in the Irish bar, I was like, is this Boston? Are we in Boston?
Wait,
I got excited.
Was it supposed to be an Irish bar?
Absolutely.
They're supposed to be Irish, right? Like the three of them are meant to be Irish.
When they came from the old country to Mobile, Alabama, when those boats pulled up, the Irish,
interesting choice.
They made roots. They made roots in Mobile, Alabama.
And then they have that weird conversation that like even before that, when he talks to his daughter, he picks up his daughter as the first thing before he goes to the ribbon cutting and the bar. I can't remember what order that was in.
Yeah.
But he freaks out over her henna tattoo, and then he has this like weird one-sided conversation where he asks her something and she responds, and then he abruptly changes the subject to ask her something else. Like, this doesn't feel remotely natural.
It's like, we need to get a lot of information out. Let's just check these exposition boxes as passionately as possible.
That is the whole first 15 minutes of the movie. Is just, we have some clips of this, just like ridiculously heavy-handed expedition.
Oh, there is one clip I have of that where it's after the daughter dies and Danny Glover is talking to. Should I play that clip?
Yeah, let's watch it.
All right, so this is after the daughter dies and or is abducted, and they're in his house. It's very short, but there's a part where it's just like, oh my God, they're beating you over the head with the fact that Danny Glover knows Nic Cage.
I would tell you if I had any idea who was behind this.
Would you?
Pete, I'm out of the game. You know that. How long have we known each other?
Since the massacre at the 4 Ps.
Yes, 15 years, Pete.
Yeah, I know you.
Right, you do. You know me.
You know what I mean, Meg? Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, you know what I mean. Like, what? So
Shiyan,
weird.
how long have we known each other?
Since that time we met at improv.
Yes, so we know each other.
Well, you have to
Yes,
say
of
how long
course.
too. Like, yes, 3
Like, it
years
was
and
so
7 months.
weird. Like, okay, we have to let people know there was a massacre. We have to let the people know that it's been 15 years, and we have to let people know that he's clean. How do we do that succinctly? And then they have like 3 lines of dialogue each. Like, that's not even succinct. They could have said it faster.
Also, they never get into what the massacre with the 4 Ps even was, or what is the 4P? What's going on? They never talk about it again.
I couldn't understand what he said the first time, so this is the first time I'm hearing the word massacre. I just started. I thought he said Damascus.
Oh no,
Damascus and the 4 Ps.
I will say though, when Danny Glover showed up in the movie,
what was going on.
I got like excited when Danny Glover showed up.
Me
because
too. I was
he like
oh,
legitimized
like an
it.
actual... I mean, he did.
Yeah.
He did pretty good. I thought he was not. Not everyone in this movie was distractingly bad aside from him.
Like, I look at him, I'm like, oh, I would believe this person is an old detective. Yes, this works.
Yeah,
you know what
it
I mean?
Indeed, seem like he was too old for all of this.
Yeah, he was a very old detective.
So, what did
Like
you guys think of the daughter character?
Getting too old.
Aside from the fact that she was too old and was wearing a wig for some reason, did you clock the wig?
Oh, I did not.
And
I
bizarre.
wonder why.
The sexual tension between Cage and her was a little weird, like flirty kind of interaction, I would say.
Yeah, that first conversation in the car. I in my notes, I don't have anything about any specific actors other than to like note when I recognize someone.
Mm-hmm.
I did write the start is a flash forward, right? Then I wrote taking off points for rude reaction to henna tattoos. And then I wrote convos equal weird, and then transitions equal awkward. And after that point, I just noted like if I recognize someone and I moved on, because I noted that there's we mentioned Peter Stormare, but also Jack Falahy, I think is his name. He's in How to Get Away with Murder. Okay. And so I was like, oh, this will be a good 6 Degrees Separation movie, because those two people are in a lot of other films and it makes a lot of connections. So there's at least one good thing about this movie is that it helps. Oh,
he was one of the kids.
Yeah, he's one of the students in How to Get Away with Murder.
Oh. But he's one of the kids in this movie, right? He's one of her friends.
Yes, he's one of the 2 friends.
Got it.
Not the one that is madly in love, not the working man who's madly in love with the daughter. He's one of the fellow rich kids who is just a third wheel in their weird relationship.
Like, what kind of dad is he? He's like, yeah, you 3 just like stay here. Like, what is gonna happen when he leaves? Like, I didn't know what he thought was like. These are honestly, I was like, oh, this is like they're a triad or something. That's what I thought. I you know what I mean? Like, they're obviously gonna get wasted and bad things are gonna happen. But I don't know.
I kind of thought he was like her brother. But I guess that would be weird that Nic Cage wasn't acknowledging him as such.
It was just
seemed weird to me. I guess it's worse to have like if you're afraid of kids being kids, you wouldn't want like your teenage daughter with a teenage friend from school. It's just the 2 of them at home. So perhaps it's better to have numbers. But it was like weirdly not enough for a party, but like too intimate in that it's 3 people. So who knows?
It was bizarre. And
also he had a guitar with no tuning pegs on it. Like, it was like one of those weird guitars where the neck just stops, just like, and then tuning pegs are.
I think they're on the back. They're on the back of it.
Or they could be on the bottom too.
Yeah, it wraps around. And there was something. All right,
but weird. It's weird.
Did you notice that so we were talking about this actually, Meg? The camera.
The wine.
No, what about the wine?
Oh, like right when they're leaving, inexplicably he's like in the kitchen and there's just all these boxes of wine.
Oh yeah,
like half
it was all wine.
Yeah, no explanation. No wonder those kids got drunk.
Yeah, just heck of wine.
In this movie, so this is like not really related to that. This is the moving camera. Like they never had a still shot. The camera would always be like kind of moving across. Every time they showed anything, especially in that opening scene where they're planning her Sweet 16 birthday inside that bar.
Yes, that weird conversation where they like the one friend like randomly mentions like I feel like they're talking about like him having sex with someone, but they use a slang that I hadn't heard before, and it just like it's like interwoven with this conversation about a party for your friend's 16-year-old. Like I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Ugh.
The shitty acting and like the camera work and everything, that was like the opening scene. I was just like, oh, we're done. This is gonna be a
And
bad
meanwhile, I'm
movie.
like, where are we?
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe we're in Boston, but then we weren't. So
They only had so many places to film, you could tell, because they would just they went to the house, they went to that bar, and I think they were just like, we need some kind of a picking up for school thing, so let's like reuse the bar or something. I don't know. That seems so tacked on with the birthday party planning bullshit at the top.
also, that girl is
Oh
not
my
16.
gosh.
Yeah.
So yeah, it didn't click in my brain, but like the notion that she's 15 going on 16
Yeah,
is
like-
wild.
Yeah.
And I've heard a lot of things about this, like, you know, we have labor laws, and so you can't have actual children working for the same amount of hours, and so, you know, monetary reasons and whatnot, you cast older actors. But I also saw a very interesting YouTube video that basically went into the fact that because we're letting adults play children, we get to like put them in sexual situations, and like what does that mean for how other adults view those children, because we're like mapping a child onto like a 25-year-old who's playing a 15-year-old but then acting like a 25-year-old, and it's like,
Yeah.
that's not great.
It's not because
Yeah.
you wouldn't leave 3 15-year-olds home alone with like 2 guys and a girl. Like you would not. I don't know a parent
With
that would,
thousands
like,
of boxes of wine.
yeah, like you would never do that. And also, like, I when I was 15, I wasn't like drinking like fucking like booze right out of the bottle. Maybe some people were, but like that's pretty hardcore for a 15. Like you look like an infant when you're 15 years old. You don't look like an adult. And like if you have like a couple of shots, you're done. Like, you know what I mean? You're not like hardcore.
Yeah.
I just a little fact check for us. The actress Aubrey Peebles, who plays the daughter, was 20 in 2014.
Checks out.
So,
I'm just
yeah. So, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm just like looking through my notes, like, oh god, like what? I remember it was like 20 minutes in when you realize, and they don't say it, like you realize he's some kind of housing developer. Like,
Yeah, he's a
Oh, that's
contractor or something.
you have to piece it together.
Yeah,
I
they
don't know.
really, it's weird how they'll like give exposition in certain areas. In other areas, you have to like look around and find the context clues.
And they
It's like, okay, this is not his first wife.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Okay,
Let's talk about
like-
stepmom. So,
You're shaking your head, Chris. Not a fan.
I just was like, why did they even make her the stepmom? Why introduce this complication that there was this other woman? I guess to explain why he went straight, but like they should have just made her the actual mom. Then she doesn't explain like, well, she's not my real daughter, but I still loved her anyway. It was just so bad. I don't know. I didn't like it.
and she looked very similar to the daughter too. So like
Yeah.
when she
Did.
came out, I liked it. I was like, is that the
She
daughter?
did.
No. Wait a
It
second.
was weird to me.
They could have been like
A lot.
sisters. They were like more like
Yeah.
sister than.
I wonder, how old is that actress? Were they similar in age, or
She
was
was
there a
32.
bigger
Thanks
gap?
for asking. So she was 30
Like 33,
4.
34.
when
Okay.
this movie was filmed, and Nic Cage would have been 49, I think. So greater than 15-year age difference. We love to see it. She actually, so she has a lot of credits. So she has been in a lot of like TV shows like Criminal Minds. She was in The Man in High Castle.
Oh, cool.
Star Trek, one of the 2009 Star Trek. I was really surprised to see that, because for me she was the worst actor in the entire thing. The daughter was competition, as well as the two bros. His bros.
No, the
The
worst
two
actor.
friends.
The worst actor had to be the dude with the silver hair. He was real bad, right? I don't know. So,
I don't know. I
The
mean,
one that you think, the one that owned the bar.
the one that owned
Yeah.
the bar, like that guy was like,
Yeah.
I don't know. He was bottom. rung.
Honestly, I don't know that I even. For me, it was just. I think the writing was so bad
it's
in my
true.
mind that it just was like, even if they were good actors, it's like this the way that they spoke and how they communicated was just so odd to me that like that was a flag, and I think I stopped focusing after that. It was just like let's go, let's see how it gets to the end.
It feels like I honestly, what if like this wasn't a badly written movie, but was the victim of like being like chop jobbed edited? Because the edits are really like they're jumping all over the place, and it feels like things are missing. Like a lot of information is missing. So maybe there was scenes that had like some more exposition in it, or like something. I don't know. Like that could be the case.
Maybe, yeah.
If you want to be generous, you could say that could be the case.
Guys, we're not here to be nice. We're here to be real. If we have some rage about this movie, we should feel comfortable showing it.
Do you want to talk about the what's it called? The part where his son plays him as a young man.
Well, I think we'll skip it a little.
What that was?
That was his actual son.
We have a clip of that.
But like he looks so different. So Meg told me like a pet peeve of hers is in movies when they do a flashback, you know, the person has the same haircut they have in the future or something like that. So the audience
they look exactly the same.
So the audience isn't super thrown. But in this one, they said he could look completely different, I guess, in the past.
You know what? I was fully thrown. They took 3 men, 2 had like, it was like gray hair, kind of a dirty blonde, and black hair. And then we flashed to 3 people with dark hair. And when they first showed them, I did not know that we were in the past. I thought we were in the present. So I was like, is this related to his daughter who's been taken? Who's attacking this car? And it was until they like, I think showed it a second time that it was like more clear, and they like said someone's name. I was like, oh, is that the name of the like idiot friend? Like, okay, 1 + 1 is 2. This is like flashback. But like, I don't like doing math to figure out that I'm in a flashback. I want it to be clear.
I only knew because I only knew immediately because I knew that was his son from seeing him. Like, oh, that's Nic Cage's son. They're trying, play him as a young man.
Yeah. How do you recognize Nic Cage's son? I have a Nic Cage podcast. Pictures. I don't even know what his son looks like. Yeah, bring it up, Chris. Let's look at
on
this
main viewer. Yeah, this is Nic Cage's son playing him. Also, I believe a lot of this exposition was not in the movie that Nic Cage's son says. So
this is some deleted scene stuff.
I think so, because this would have cleared up some stuff for me.
Do you want to die? Because after pulling off a job like that, Chernov's gonna be looking for any fool splashing money around. We keep silent just for a little while. Lock out the money for a couple years and we're gold.
Sim just looking intensely. I cut out all the torture that was going on in the background too. There was like stuff happening. But yeah, like so the whole thing about like we'll hide the money and we'll keep quiet about it for a while. They never said that in the movie.
They said it at the end. Yeah,
at the very end. So you're like, oh, okay.
Around the time where, I mean, we're jumping all over the place, but I'm going to say the idiot friend. The idiot friend, I think, caused all of this by, I think it's the idiot friend that killed the guy, what they shouldn't have killed. And he is just having like, he's on a date. Like he's just hanging out, he's drinking, he doesn't pick up his phone.
Oh,
and then
Danny.
The other friend, so yeah, Danny, the Silver Fox guy, he gets captured by the Russian mob and is being tortured and all of this. And then Nicolas Cage's character goes to like confront Danny and like, you know, what's going on? Why are you doing this? Yada, yada, yada. And he starts berating him and saying that he's a rat and that you're supposed to do X, you're supposed to do Y. And Danny's like, no, I never did. And he lashes out, and it's just like, I don't know. I think it was supposed to be much more meaningful than it actually was, because it's like he lashes out in anger and then his friend ends up dying.
In rage, if you will.
Oh, in rage.
I think
but frankly, are we going to see the scene?
I mean, we have the scene.
Let's watch it.
Should we wait, Shiyan, do you want to complete your thought first?
Well, no. Let's play the scene and then I'll continue.
All right, I have 2 parts of this. The first part, I just had to cut this out because of how like seriously shaky the camera is at the opening of that scene. It's like, what's going on? Like how they keep this in. Oh.
All of the papers. Crate full of Israeli submachine guns, and all you got was possession.
There's a real big shake coming.
I don't like what you're getting at. What am I getting at? Paulie, no one has one clue.
Like, look at that. Like the guy got up and walked around during the shot. It was weird.
Like I did it.
And then here's the rat scene you were talking about. Some real hard acting coming up.
What's the big deal? They took Caitlin and they shot her.
Can't hear it, Chris.
Oh, you can't hear it?
Maybe that's not a big deal to you, but it's a pretty fucking big deal to me! And the only reason they would do something like that is if someone talked. No one asked you where you got the money for those guns? O'Connell didn't want to have to pull off something like that on your own? Polly, yeah?
I've always been loyal.
You've always been an idiot.
See the emotion on their faces, though.
Screw you, Polly. Nothing's ever your fault. There's always someone else to blame, always someone there to bail you out. Who's bailing you out now? Whose man are you now? Are you my man? Are you sure enough? Hey, are you O'Connell's man?
Polly, easy.
Knock it off! You talk! I give stronger guts to your boss, so he take care of you, make those guns go away. That's not what O'Connell talked. It's not what I thought he did. We swore not to talk about it, not to spend the money, not to draw attention to ourselves. I'm not a rat. You are a rat.
Instead of just having this scene make you feel that thing. So if you couldn't hear it too clearly, it's Nicolas Cage kind of lashing out in rage to his friend Danny, and saying that like this happened because of you. Like you must have talked, whatever happened that made you go into jail for a while in the past. That you must have gotten that fixed somehow, and that's how this is coming back on me. And frankly, even watching it then, it's like that's a lot of jumping to conclusions you're doing over here, Nick. Like how did we get here? And by the end of the movie, it's like, oh, okay, cool. It's your guilt that's just been eating you alive, and that's why you're lashing out at your friend like this.
Yeah, I think what happened there was like the left channel was empty, so you guys couldn't hear it. But hopefully the podcast picks it up. But if not, I just the whole thing with him killing him right after, 2 times in the movie he kills somebody and then goes, wait, no, you're okay, don't die, like immediately after killing them.
Yeah,
like
in a way that is unbelievable, like fully unbelievable. Like you're fighting with your friend, you're pushing him, he pushes you, you slash at him with a knife, and then you're basically like, shake it off, bro. Like,
get up.
He's leaking his guts onto the floor. Like you did that.
Okay, I think we should just jump around. Chris, you want to show the clip of where he does the other time?
Oh, the roof time? Yeah. Oh,
the
yeah.
Roof time.
I dubbed this scene, "How did it get roofed?" because it has very similar vibes to How Did It Get Burned from The Wicker Man. But you probably won't be able to hear this very well either.
Someone.
It's actually better.
Bullet in my daughter's head with a Russian handgun. Who did it? Huh? Was it Chernov? Huh? Was someone act out of turn? Who was it? Who did it? Who did it? No, don't die.
Don't die. Don't die.
Like, don't die.
Why are they playing this music again? Yeah, there's definitely a weird way to keep him not from dying. Very true.
Comment from the chat, thank you.
And then empty a clip into him, obviously.
Makes no sense. Like, first of all, let's talk about this weird, like, loose punch that happened. What was that? Like, if everybody that's listening or watching just make a fist, you're going to close that fist. It's going to be a closed fist. Like, there's nothing in there. And when you punch that man twice, his hand does like one of these. So like, is he like weirdly slapping him with his like, with his knuckles? Like, what am I looking at? And why are they giving us freaking sadness music like he's, breaking up with someone while he's like slamming some man's head into the ground? Like, I'm beside myself.
A comment from the chat: is Nic Cage a cop in this movie? No, he's not a cop. He is an ex-con. It was turned into a housing developer.
Yeah.
I assume
his daughter was murdered.
It's ridiculous.
His daughter wasn't even murdered. Murdered implies...
Well, I mean, she was.
It was like no premeditation. It was an accidental death.
Well, Chris, why does he think that his daughter was murdered?
Because he murdered someone else.
I'm really trying to. Okay, I'll just say it. So after the weird children hang out unsupervised with boxes of wine nearby, he gets a call that his daughter, there's been an incident, and then they go home. The two boys are like tearfully there. They're beaten up, and the house is a mess. And they say that like people came in and they tried to fight back, but they weren't strong enough, and they took the daughter. So that's why we get the Taken vibe, is that we're told that she's been abducted, essentially.
So they lied, and that's why he didn't just jump to that conclusion. It's because those kids lied.
Right.
Yeah. But man, that was some.
This movie should be called Not Actually Taken.
Don't tell Nic Cage his daughter is dead. Like, don't tell mom the babysitter's dead.
Oh my gosh.
Basically, it's the same plot. I would love to see a movie centered around the kid, or a Weekend at Bernie's, except they have the daughter's body, and he's like, they're trying to pretend she's alive. And those two guys,
I don't like that. Nope. Just
you got two friends, one on either
no one
side.
Else do this. Megan and I are out. Nope. Cut the line.
She's a teenage girl, Chris.
Dump it.
We don't like it. We don't like it.
Dump the feed.
All right.
All right. So he finds out that she's been taken / actually not taken. He's like, I gotta go after her. Don't. Do
you remember when they're like, how deep do you want this to go? How deep is hell?
That is an actual line from this.
Yeah,
movie.
that's a line from the film.
I wrote that down. I'm like, oh, that's so bad.
One of many moments where I kind of just shook my head that I picked this film. I said, yes, I'll do that.
Yeah, you picked it.
Wait.
So he's opening. I'm just like going through my notes right now. He's opening cards, right? He's opening cards, for, like, sending their condolences, and he opens a card. He looks at it. It's signed condolences. There's no name. It just says in handwriting. There's the text of the card, and underneath in handwriting condolences. No name.
Pretty,
that's actually pretty threatening. If I got an anonymous condolences card, I'd be like, whoa.
Well,
maybe you should have suspected them. Oh, yes. Gosh. Can we talk about the fact that the boy that's in love with his daughter is the one that like tells this story, and then he goes to this boy to try to like figure out like who did this?
Yes.
Yeah, and he goes
that at the very end, you mean?
In like the middle. Like after the daughter's been killed, like it's been determined that like she was killed. After they find her body, he then goes to meet, sad blonde boy to say like, what's going on? You need to give me like. He tells again
He's
another
like,
weirdly racist tale is told, where he talks about defending his wife's honor, his girlfriend's honor at the time, and tells this boy who he thinks just saw his daughter be like removed from his presence forcibly, that he would have died for his own girlfriend.
Yes.
So essentially guilting him and saying, you should have died for my daughter.
You should have taken the bullet, son. Like basically.
Right.
And he's
like they're not even dating. Like they're like they have yet to even like become a thing. But
this
regardless,
is a
it's like this 15-year-old child,
child
because you think that they should have done a better job. And then he begins to kind of interrogate him, and he's like, okay, what kind of accents did you hear? What kind of smells were there? What kind of slang was sold? And it's just like,
it's like they smell like cologne. They smell like, what do you say? Like,
yeah,
do they smell like food?
Oh,
like Chinese food? Like whatever.
Like, what is this weird like racist movie I picked for this podcast? Like, why?
The story tells us like I was with her mother at the time before she died, and one of them called her a slut. And so I like beat the guy, broke both his legs. Like that was the story he tells to the kid right before the thing.
I mean, Nic Cage is the villain of this movie. Like we're all on the same page about 100%. That, right? I don't know if there is a hero to this movie.
Hero? No. Again, this movie should be called Sadness or Guilt. Because that's really all it is. If you go back, like, the music that they just played in the two scenes where he was like yelling at someone and then eventually killed them, that's classic sadness music. It's like,
totally,
someone's going off to sea, I'll never see them again. I thought this was the last coconut. It's empty. I'm dying of thirst. Like, it was very sad. Like, that was the vibe through and through. And then when the movie ends, we didn't really talk about this, but the very beginning of the movie is the end of the movie. It's like Nic Cage in a room, and he's like,
yes,
sad.
yeah.
And like,
because he's about
people
to
are
die.
coming in, and it's clarified because there's just like whole like undercurrent of like back in the day, essentially, when Nic Cage and his idiot friends were smaller idiots. They did this thing, they stole money, and they killed someone who was in the Russian mob. And because of it, Peter Stormare's character gets paralyzed. There's this whole rift. There's a war that I think might be related to this massacre at the something peas that they never tell you about. I'm just assuming.
Yeah,
because you find out later that like this thing started this like whole like, you know, butterfly effect or like card trick of like all these other things happened thereafter.
But
because he and his friends wanted to just like rob someone. And then the end of the movie, you find out that like, oh, this thing that we thought was an abduction and a murder was just an accident with a bunch of kids who were playing with guns that were not properly kept away. So gun control
And
freaking
whose
like lock your
fault
shit up.
is that? Nicolas Cage's.
Nicolas Cage. So it's like him like drowning. That's how I saw the end of the movie, was him just like sitting with the fact that like, oh, I killed my friend, I got my friend killed, I got my daughter killed, I did all these things. It's all on me. It's just like, well, this like wall of guilt. And he like, I think is coming to terms with like, I deserve what's coming to me at this point in time. That's how
might as well get shot by the Russian mob.
I think that you two are also, Shiyan, you are given this, like, you did some detective work to find these facts out. The movie did not present these facts. You know what I mean? Like
they give it to you like it's very piecemeal. It's like, okay, the Peter Stormare's character, who's the big like Italian mob guy,
Irish
mob.
But I mean, if you can tell from his his accent is an attempt at Irish, I think.
I mean,
I sent a clip of him talking to one of my friends and was like, guess what accent this is?
Oh no.
It's like, I have no idea. So can you believe it's Irish?
Unbelievable. But yeah, it's very piecemeal. It's like you have to have one of those, you have to make one of those like detective maps where you put all the red lines together. It's like, okay, he's in a wheelchair, there was an incident, got it. Russian mobster, he had a son. Oh, it was his brother. Okay, cool. His brother was killed by this person. And like you start to realize that as they're giving the information out, nobody knows what they're talking about because they actually did keep their secret really well. But it was the guilt. It was the guilt that ate up Nic Cage's character, and it's the guilt that'll get you.
Well,
so that's the the lesson.
There was something here that was really damning about Nic Cage's character is he kept the gun. And like if you murder someone, you don't keep the gun in your house because
that's like murder 101.
Right.
I feel like it's probably in How to Get Away with Murder. You should listen to Jack Fahey's character from that future show.
So like he must have felt guilty. He must have wanted to get caught deep down, is what you're saying. And like really,
I don't know.
Cosmic.
You guys are adding a lot of layers to this movie that are very generous.
And just like basic things. Like he's the one that had the big idea to not spend the money. They said not to spend the money for a few years. They didn't spend the money for 20 years. They didn't spend the money at all.
It's worth a lot less
kept
now.
All the guns just like hanging out and then fully loaded. Like, am I like
you,
what?
You leave 3 teenagers alone in your house with a fully loaded gun that is unsecured.
There was a lot of there was a bag full of unsecured guns in that closet. Like that was the gun on. First off, that gun was on the top of a pile of other guns. He's got his murder gun sitting on top, loaded.
He's the villain.
Like, yeah. It's so wild. And I don't know if the movie wants you to feel sorry for him. I didn't. I just felt like, there's your guilt. It'll get you. Thanks for...
Oh my God.
There's a couple of scenes I want to make sure we talk about that are real weird.
Okay.
For one, there's one where pretty early on when he meets up with his 2 idiot friends and they're like, oh, we gotta deal with this. They go to harass some random like junkie guy and like immediately like try to like throw his girlfriend out a window. Like they attach like a cinder block to a rope around her neck and like chuck the cinder block out the window to get this guy to talk. The guy knows nothing because she was murdered by her friend by accident. You're like, these are the heroes of the story. Like we're supposed to be rooting
and then
for
when
these
they
people?
walk off, one of them is like, I can't believe you did that. Like gray hair is like, I can't believe you did that, Danny. Yeah. You're wild. And Danny's like, oh, I thought she'd fly out the window like a canary. And I'm like, what am I watching? But I know what I'm watching because at the beginning of the movie, they were randomly talking about like their sexual trysts while they were planning a 16-year-old's birthday party. So like,
this is like beyond anti-hero stuff. Like it's like you're not rooting for them.
Are they heroes? I mean, I guess you sort of are until you realize that like they literally have made their own bed in every way.
Yeah. But a cinder block won't do that too. Like a cinder block you can pick up with one hand. It's not that heavy. It's not gonna if you tied a rope to yourself and threw the cinder block, it would make you like lose your balance a little bit, but it's not gonna certainly pull your entire body away, right? So she could have easily just gone like this.
You'd need to have something that weighed about as much as you or had a lot of acceleration, right?
Or yeah, when you throw it, you'd have to throw it with so much force that it would pull. That would be what because
maybe Danny is just jacked and
maybe
he's a big dude.
He can throw things really far and fast.
But it's just she could have just easily just grabbed the rope and been like this.
I mean,
and totally been
she
fine.
was like, they had to wake her up, and she was still like in a drug state.
She didn't like remember any of what happened probably.
Didn't she show up later in the movie, like another scene, like they were raiding another people's house and they like went and it was like I was like there's that lady again lying on a bed. I thought
I missed that.
It might not have actually been her. It looks similar to
her. The drug den just
she's like these fucking dudes again.
Not again. I'm out of here.
I have a question. Do you have the scene or do you remember the scene where they go to like a hideout where I guess the Russian mob is, and they're like, trying to get past the bouncer.
Yeah, the pool house.
That whole conversation. So they're like trying to talk to this guy. He's talking to them in Russian, and they're like, speak English, and he's like, I don't want to. You should leave. And then at one point, he tells them that he speaks 3 languages, and he calls them stupid. And then Nic Cage punches him. And the hinges of the door fly away, like on both, like the door. So the hinges are on one side of the door, and then I'm supposing it's locked. Let's say it's unlocked, but it doesn't like bust through the way it was like, like the door was hit in one angle, and it's bending on that hinge, like push the door open. It flies and is like crooked, and I'm like, he gave the man a simple punch,
an open-handed punch.
Yeah, a weird knuckle punch, and he like flew him like through the. I was beyond, and I told Michael about this. Shout out, he's in the chat hiding with his pseudonym, but like he saw just that scene and was like, looks pretty cool, and I was enraged. Because I was like, how could you see just a random clip of this movie with no context and still think it's good? So like, I don't know, maybe
wait. So you watched all of 8mm, which was for his episode, but he didn't watch all of Rage for your episode.
Ooh, Mike!
You're in trouble. No, I watched it like on my phone while I was like doing other things.
If you look,
I was like, oh yeah, I need to get into this. And then for 8mm, we like sat down and watched it.
If you look at this movie rather than a film. If you look at it as if you went to the grocery store and you're like, I want to buy Rage. I want to buy a product that'll give me Rage. It delivers. If it's a box labeled
Rage. It did that for me.
You're like, I'm mad now. I got Rage. I picked up some Rage at the store.
And you know what else? It also gave me sadness and guilt.
Sadness and guilt.
Hey, bonus
so
emotions.
It truly delivered on all accounts.
So, all right. So
we have this pool hall fight. Yeah.
I want to talk about, I don't want to jump around too much, I guess, but
let's do it.
Do you remember when Danny Glover just lets him off after the car chase?
Oh, yeah. So there's a terrible car chase down the streets of Mobile, Alabama. Someday I'm going to look up how to say it.
When you say terrible, you don't mean terrible like, oh, wow, they're knocking over cars. Just terrible as in it made no sense. It looked like they just filmed 2 cars driving side by side,
Yeah, it's not a very well done car chase. And then Danny Glover gets him and he's like, wait, I forget what his logic is for letting him go.
I don't know.
And he was given. They arrest him.
He's my buddy.
He's like,
let him go.
Let him go.
You're letting the kidnapper get away. And they're like, what are you talking about? We're going to arrest you because you're a bad guy. And then Danny Glover comes out and he's like, let him go. And the other cop's like, what? He's right here. We got him. He's like, just let him go. I know him or some nonsense.
that night before a bunch of Russian mobsters have gotten murdered and the cops know about it. And like and
they suspect him.
Yeah, because he's the number one suspect, and they're like, "Hey, that might have been you, but like, let's deal with that later. You go deal with your stuff." Like, he just smashed up a bunch of downtown, and like murdered a bunch of Russian people. And
that car chase had one of the most awkward car explosions. It was like cars chasing by, and then police car pulls up, blows up. Second pause. Back to the car. It was just a weird, like they just, it looked like someone just blew up a police car for no reason.
It was weird. It was so weird. They also, like, in this world, in this town, the police are like fully aware of, I mean, maybe this is how the world works, but they're just like fully aware of all the mobs, and it's just like fine.
Yeah.
Like they can just continue doing their legal activities, and it's cool. Like, so many people died in this film, and there's no like, you're under suspicion for the death of such and such person who was killed on a roof, and such person who's your best friend, and like yada yada yada. It's just like, yep, people are dying.
I think Danny Glover is one of the more sympathetic characters in this movie, but even he is not a very good cop.
No,
he's not a great cop.
It also, Mobile, Alabama, I imagine has a huge shipping, center because it's on the Gulf of Mexico, and I imagine there's a lot of oil coming in.
It's not. We looked at. Oh wait, did we look this?
Oh,
yeah,
you're right.
Thought it was on the Mississippi River.
It's
it's actually on the Gulf.
Mobile Bay, you said, or something.
Yeah, but which is off the Gulf. Yeah.
So I would have expected way more scenes to happen at the docks, because like if there is a mafia, they're gonna want to control. They're gonna use that to get things into the country, I'd imagine, or things like that. But there were no docks to be seen in this whole film.
Just a bunch of bars.
Like that one bar, over and over again.
There's another scene that happens around here that we missed. That was a little disturbing. We did not get a clip of this, but it's when he chokes his wife.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that fucked up sex scene.
I remember that.
Oh.
He comes in and he's all covered in blood, and she's like, "What did you do?" And he's like, "Your husband's a murderer," and like chokes her. It's like, "Does that turn you on?" And she's like, "Actually, yeah." And then they get it. They like go for it. It's
no, she never says anything. She doesn't say actually, yeah. She's getting choked, and she's just like, okay, I don't even choke. Like I don't know. She seemed into
I mean, what I got from that scene was that like she
sadness and guilt.
Yeah, a lot of sadness and guilt. Why did I pick this movie? But it's her, like, because initially she was like, I want to know everything, like keep me posted, do whatever it takes. And then he goes out and quote does whatever it takes. And then she's like, this is not what I meant. I wish I could take it back. And she's like, actually, you really like this. You're probably turned on by me right now, knowing that your husband is a killer. And yeah, I didn't expect the reaction to being choked and told that your husband is a killer to be like, yes, it's like, now we kiss now. But hey, maybe that's what the lady's into.
It's just there's no good people in this movie. Like she's basically now just like, all right, I guess I'm complicit with this. Or maybe honestly though, maybe she's afraid of him, and we shouldn't be faulting her for this.
Yeah, like it could be.
Yeah,
psychopathic.
She could be into it, or she could be afraid.
There's also a scene after he gets let go, where they go to a strip club. Like it's probably around presumably 11:30 in the morning, and it has like 8 guests. And 25 strippers, like conservatively 25 strippers are dancing at 11:30 in the morning for 8 people. It's like, what is this strip club?
It's a real, they should really work on their supply and demand model for that.
And it's like
another scene that just felt like they were like, we want to put this in here, so we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And make it look like more of a legitimate gangster movie we're going to have just for the preview or for the trailer. Let's have this strip club scene.
Maybe.
And then inexplicably, the Irish guy gets killed. I don't know why. And we see that Silver Fox's dude's armpits for a long time.
He was hung up there for a while.
It was uncomfortable to watch. It's just like when you hang someone from the ceiling, like it just looks weird. Like it's like his armpits were like for most of the.
Yeah, it looked like his shoulders were probably like extended as far as it could be. It was real frustrating, and that was the whole thing where, he's at his bar and he doesn't have backup because Danny's off on a date somewhere.
Yeah.
Getting drunk and just living his best life. And it's 1 against like 5. And so of course the Silver haired guy gets taken. He gets taken.
See, that's really taken about the silver haired guy. Does anyone know his name? Does his name ever get said in the movie? Or like, I'm sure
he's like, it's not Danny. It's not. Is it Kane? Is it Mike? Is it?
Oh gosh, I didn't write down any of their names.
Yeah, I didn't.
It's Kane. His name is Kane.
It is Kane.
Oh,
okay.
Kane. All right. Well, there you go.
So I loved that scene where he was getting shot at the bar, because for some reason, like, so there's like a little doorway in the middle of the bar, and for some reason he hides behind one side of the doorway while they're shooting at him, and then he keeps going back and forth across the doorway to either side while they're shooting at him. He's like exposing himself. It's like, dude, just stay put. Like,
you also didn't like see him until he shot at them, and I was like, there's no back way out of this place. Like, what are we doing, sir?
Yeah,
I felt bad.
It was such a small bar. They had to like make the appearance of him making his way to some place, but in order to do that, like, he literally could only walk across the same area over and over again. They just tried to make it look like
they just needed some sort of movement, so it wasn't just him standing put while they shot.
Oh my god.
Another thing I thought was funny about the scene where they hung him up was that they just kept giving him, they were waterboarding him, right? And like they kept giving him water, and the guy was like, oh, I bet your bladder's really full, and then just kept punching him in the stomach. And I was like, is this gonna be a thing where like the guy's trying to make him pee his pants? Like, this is, and like,
yeah,
it was like this, the whole time I was thinking, I was like, oh, he's gonna pee his pants, don't punch him in the stomach, he's gonna pee himself. But then they never looped back to that. It was really weird that they talked about his bladder.
Yeah.
Also,
it's a lot of weird.
His fate is unknown.
A whole heck of a lot of weird.
At the end of the film, do we know what happened to him?
Yeah, I don't remember. Do you guys remember
that guy?
Did he die?
Yeah. Yeah. So the Russian, this blows my mind that I have all of this like just locked away in my brain now forever. But the Russian man who had like a beautiful face, I feel like he has like a skincare regimen. If there's like nothing positive about this movie, it's that dude's skincare regimen, because it's like, or his whatever work he's had done, top notch. He goes to see the head of the Irish mob, so Peter Stormare's character. And he's like, this is yours, and it's like him in a body bag.
Oh, that's right.
And Stromare's like, he hasn't been mine, or rather that hasn't been mine for a while, because I guess people who work for mob bosses aren't people, they're just like tools or whatever. And they have this conversation, and he clarifies that like this war that was between us X years ago, like that was started by these people because they killed my brother. And they have a little fight, and then the Russian guy ends up shooting them. So a lot of the Irish mob gets, not a lot, but that guy and whoever was with him end up dying.
Yeah, I didn't really understand that scene at all, why he shot him or what was going on there, and I was checked out at that point.
Well, understandable to be checked out. But it seemed like, I don't know, a little bit of a standoff, and people were shooting each other, and so it was like, I'll shoot you back. But frankly, at that movie, I was just hoping for the sweet release of the movie being over. I was very sleepy, and so I can understand missing things.
We have a couple more clips, or is there anything else you want to bring up?
I was going to say that guy's name is Pasha Lichnikov, and he was on Deadwood and Shameless.
He had a good face for like, he had a very, I don't know. He seemed to fit the character.
Yeah, let's look at the clips.
Okay, so this is they're shaking down one of the crack houses, or whatever you want to call it.
Oh boy.
And this is the laziest stunt ever recorded in a movie. This is just Nic Cage doing a stunt. That's it. He did.
That's the most exciting part of the movie.
Also, I want to point out something. I hopefully I can show this. This is, you can see the muzzle flash of the shotgun here. This is where this man is standing. This is where a solid foot at least to the left of this person, and somehow it takes him out. They didn't even bother to get that right. I don't know. Oh god.
For those
you want to describe it? Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I was gonna say, for those listening, it's Nic Cage is literally just lying on the floor of a kitchen with two guns, pointed at 2 doorways, just waiting for them to come. And then when one of the guys walks in, he shoots him, and then another guy walks in the other door and he shoots him. That's it. Like, why are you waiting there? Like, go get some cover.
Like they had planned.
You would have thought, because the idea is that he knew that there were people behind the doorway.
Yeah.
So he was, I don't know how he knew there were 2 of them, but he surmised that, and he's like, cool, they're going to split up and come this way. So it's like, I'm tactical and thinking. But after shooting the first guy, why would the other guy keep going? Like, you wouldn't like have a little bit of caution, like, oh, what just happened over there? So interesting.
I mean, Cage missed by a lot, so I don't.
But the guy still. Shout out to stunt, just stunt people. Like, there's a lot that you have to make up for sometimes.
Yeah.
Totally.
To sell things as a stunt person is so physically demanding compared to other things. So the other clip we have is the obvious clip that we have to play of this movie where the daughter gets shot in the head.
And Chris, I feel like this should be scored with the ooh, what you say?
Oh no.
Oh, yeah. Like,
wow.
This moment is probably like locked in my memory as I have never laughed harder. I mean, I'm sorry, but I've never laughed harder.
I didn't know this was a comedy.
All right, hand it over.
Oh, it's loud.
The notion. So this is it's the flashback to the blonde boy that's like in love with whoopsie in the chat who is playing with guns because the daughter brought them out because she's basically been like goaded into bringing them out. Y'all know her dad used to be a gangster or whatever.
Yeah.
And then she's like, okay, we've had our fun playing in the rain with guns. Let's go inside. And she taps the dude on the shoulder. And his response is to swing all the way around and then like shoot her in the head. I don't understand. I don't know why you'd be that surprised. Didn't he know he was hanging out with his 2 friends in the rain? Like, I'm confused as to why that was such a shocking situation.
He not just turned around.
I understand it was an accident, but I have confusion.
He turned around, very, not just turned around and shoot. He turns around without, because his arms are like fully extended with the gun. He turns around.
It's like did a full whip around.
And then upon turning around with pinpoint accuracy, pulls the trigger right when it lands dead between her eyes. Like, not like, like next to her head or whatever. Not like, whoa. It was just.
And think about it, like, because it was the same hand that, like, so if it's his right hand, she tapped him on the right shoulder. Was she a full hand's breadth away from him? Are their hands the same length? Like, how?
Yeah, like,
how?
He would have hit her in the head with the gun before he, like, was, you know what I mean?
Or his hand even.
Yeah, like it's so frustrating. And
so
Meg,
weird.
You were 100% right. At the moment after the gun is fired, it should have been, what you say?
What you say?
Oh, that's what I was going to talk about. We then have to get into the fact that these 2 15-year-olds, one who works at a Denny's because he's not rich like the rest of the kids that go to their school. They made a point to tell us all that. They then, dripping wet from the rain, because they've been playing with guns in the rain, which what a weird phrase to even say. These children are playing with guns in the rain. They kill their friend by accident, and then they proceed to take the body,
drop it in a river.
A river. They just somehow get rid of it, and then they go back into the house and trash it and beat each other up.
Yeah.
When the parents came home, nobody was wet. There wasn't like. Did they dry off? Did they change their clothes? Like, explain how they went from being
a lot of
in
rain.
like a downpour. Like, it wasn't. They weren't playing in sprinkles, right? Like, it was raining. Like, they were all soaked.
And the boys fighting and beating each other up. Like, that was like that montage of them trashing the house.
They're that. I mean, I've seen so many movies where this type of stuff happened, and it's like people who have done this before or like are trained. So the police and Nic Cage, who's an ex bad guy who should probably know how to, like, he should know a thing or two about a thing or two. None of these people are able to figure out that, like, okay, like, this is weird. Like, everyone is just defaulting to, well, Nic Cage used to be in the mob, so it's probably related to that.
Nic Cage,
like, how lazy.
What he would have done, I think, was real life. What he would have been like, hey, listen, He would have reached right out to the guy and said, like, if this is something that happened between us, just take me, like, leave my daughter behind. You know, we'll work it out between the two, or something like that. Like, instead, he just did not bother to talk to a single person before he started killing people for no reason.
Yeah.
And
even though he seemed to have like full guilt about what he did because it kept coming up.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say that like those flashbacks were his memory or something, just to try to make it make sense.
Yeah.
But it's like clearly it was on his mind. So yeah.
I have another thought about the kids, because like, so they found her body like a day or two later, right? Like, where did they take the body? Because they had to have like dragged her body from the backyard.
They can't drive.
Like,
they don't
a nearby
even,
river.
They're 15. They can't even fucking. They don't have learner's permits yet. They can't even drive.
Makes no sense.
And like, did they not do a certain, like when they had the crime scene? Like, I mean, I'm sure that they're like, oh, this girl was taken. Like, did they not just like search around? You know, like they're like, how far
like,
could
they
they have
dust
gone?
for prints. They didn't do anything.
Tire marks.
So wild.
Yeah.
So wild.
I think
because there's no evidence that anyone else came there. Like, there's no tire. Yeah.
Oh, and even the way that it, oh gosh, that's so smart. Even the way that it was, like where you find out everything, it's Nic Cage. He goes at night and you see the Jack Falahy guy, the guy from How to Get Away with Murder. So the second friend, and he's kind of crying, and the blonde guy comes up and he's like, why did you call me? And he's like, I'm sorry. And then he runs away. And then Nic Cage comes up and is like, I'm going to shoot you. Like, and that's how you got all the information. So we're meant to believe that this 15-year-old guy who was in love with his daughter, after accidentally killing her, decided to like stage a whole like cover up. Like, why are these babies masterminds? Like, I'm shocked.
It's just too much. I think we've given this too much time, to be honest.
You think it's time to move on, Chris?
What do you think?
Oh, I think let's rank this movie.
Let's rank this thing. We're going right to the Excel.
Yeah.
No trivia.
We're taking
no trivia on
we're
this
taking
one?
a week. Yeah, well, so there's no trivia about this movie because no one cares enough to gather trivia. I could not find any, and also we're taking a week off from bingo. We're gonna revisit the bingo format. We've had some pretty successful bingos. We're gonna see what we're gonna do with that, or I might just do another bingo next week. But let's rank this movie and see if it can possibly beat our lowest movie.
I don't know. The worst movie is pretty bad. So I don't know.
What's the worst one so far?
It's still USS Indianapolis, Men of Courage, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think I've seen that one.
Or did we get a lower one? I think we got a lower one.
Oh, let's see. I can look at the results without giving anything away right now. Oh, right now Rage is there because it's all 0 scores, but no. It's
okay,
USS,
so it is. Yes. All right. So USS Indianapolis, Men of Courage is our last movie. All right. So, Shiyan, this is out of 10. Well, we will walk you through this. The first category is how good is the cast? So like, are you like, wow, like how much excitement did you get out of seeing that guy from How to Get Away from Murder?
So 10 being the best.
Yeah.
So there are 2 people I enjoyed seeing. I guess 3 if you count Mr. Glover. Well, based on that facial expression, I'm going to say 4.
Okay.
I am going to give it 1 point for each actor I liked. Danny Glover and that Stormare guy. So 2 points.
Yeah, I'm going to give it 2 points, 1 for each of them, because although generous on the Peter Stormare one, that's being generous.
Yeah, he was barely utilized.
Yeah. All right. This is acting. This is actually not Cage's acting, but everyone else. How good was the ensemble cast out of 10?
God.
3.
That's about right. I think so.
Yeah, I'll stick with it. I feel like I'm gonna give 2.
I'm gonna give it a 1. I thought the acting in this movie was distractingly bad. I was really, really put off by everyone's acting aside from Danny Glover. Even Peter Stormare was just, that accent
was too much.
distractingly weird.
Danny Glover was like as if the whole world had gone crazy, and the only person I believed actually was the thing they were pretending to be was him, and then everyone.
They made him say the worst. They made him say that someone had a rap sheet as long as his dick. I was like, why would you make Danny Glover say that? That is so rude and not necessary.
Oh, I really wanted to recast this movie on the show, but I don't know if we have enough time. But I would have had Samuel L. Jackson be Danny Glover. I mean, or you keep Danny Glover, he would have been pretty good. But like you could recast this movie, I think, and make it a lot better. Just having.
Did you recast the script as well?
Yeah.
Is that allowed?
Recast the screenwriter.
Just like change it, like shift all of the actors to just another film.
Oh my god.
So this one is fun. How fun was this movie to watch?
Am I able to give it a 0?
Yes.
I would like to give it a 0. Thank you. I did not have fun. It was upsetting.
I laughed 3 times in this film.
What made you laugh, dear friend?
The part where he goes, "Do I know you? I know you." I laughed
Yeah,
out loud.
Fun.
I laughed out loud when the kid gets shot in the head.
Oh my gosh, Chris!
I'm a bad person. And I laughed out loud. I think it was at the time when he was like shooting the guns and the thing. I'm gonna give it a 3 for fun because it was so stupid at some points. I was like, all right, I would never watch this again. But like there was a couple moments.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 3 as well. I think there was like at least there was some action. Like there was some Cage hamming it up. You know, there was some yelling for no reason. Like there was.
I feel the need to defend my 0 now. Like
no, your 0 is absolutely right.
Your 0 is
anything
valid.
You say is right.
It's all valid.
Yeah, I just didn't have fun. The most that I laughed when I saw this, like I mentioned, was when I showed Michael that scene and he was like, "This is fine," and I was just like beside myself. Like, how could you think this is good? So
which scene was that again?
The one with the
door.
The
one where they're trying to get into the I guess
the door
place where and he punches the man so hard that the door flies off the hinges. Like,
and I remember the scene now, Shiyan. It's like it's also like as if you were opening a door, like right? But the hinge side did it. The hinge side went out that way instead of the handle
everything
side.
It makes it is not. I'm like, is he the Rock? Like, is he like just fully jacked? Like beside myself. So yeah, I stand by my 0. It was not fun for Shiyan.
All right, this next one is technical. So this is like sound design, soundtrack, wigs, costumes,
editing,
special effects, stunts, editing.
I feel real mean.
Nope, there's no. We love strong opinions on this show.
I recall noticing the editing, and every time I noticed it was not great. I don't think it was strong in a technical sense. I don't recall enjoying the soundtrack. Let me just check my notes to see if I wrote anything about that. No.
Well, you were saying you found the soundtrack distracting, is what you said, because it was always very sad.
Well, there were points where it did the thing that Glee does, where they want you to react to something being good or bad by the soundtrack, or the reactions of others, and it's a lie. I'm gonna give it a 2. I do remember the shaky cam and all that as well, so I think that brings it down.
Yeah, so like there's some Cage movies where they don't really try anything. Like they don't have budget, so they don't do a lot of things. This movie seemed to try to do some things, but failed at everything it tried to do. So I don't want to give it a 0. I want to give it a 0, but I don't want to go that low because it actually did have a car explode. It had a car chase. It had, like some of these fight scenes.
The most boring car chase in the history of car chases.
Oh, it was like, wow. They probably didn't even close the road for that. They just like had the motorcycle go alongside the car and like just move the camera really quick and acted like something was happening. So I'm going to give it a 2 also.
I'm going to give it a 0. I found so many things distracting about this movie. I think the editing was distracting. The camera work was distracting. The wigs were distracting. I agree. The soundtrack was distracting. The stunts were not that great. I just think it failed on every technical level.
Oh, this is in the running. This could be the last place. This could really take it.
I don't know. I feel like we had for USS Indianapolis, I think we had one of the guests give it straight 0s. So we're already a little bit above that. All right. Overall, how much did you like this movie? It's okay to give it as low as you want.
I didn't like it. It was bad. I wrote, so glad I picked a weirdly racist movie. So that means I'm not actually glad. I'm upset about it.
Oh, no.
I'm gonna say 0.
Completely valid.
I guess 1 maybe. I don't know. It's just not.
It's all you. It can be a 0 if that's how you feel.
Yeah, Jack Falahy and Peter Stormare were not enough to make me like this movie. It's end at my 0.
I'm gonna give it a 1 because it had a couple of good, like not good Cage freakouts, but some Cage freakouts, and I laughed.
I'm gonna give it a 1 because I didn't find it. There's certain movies that I found extremely disturbing. I didn't find this movie disturbing. I just found it dumb and boring. All right, so last one is you can add or take away a single bonus point for anything you liked or disliked about the movie, and we can just whoever thinks of one first. So if you were really distracted by the wigs, you could take away a point for that.
I'd like to take away a point for the weird racism.
I think that's fair.
Jesus, this fucking movie. I feel like I want to take away a point, but I don't need a reason.
I think that's fine.
I'm gonna take away a point. I'm taking away a point for the Danny Glover dick thing, unless that's yours.
That was a rude thing to make him say.
That man is like 75 years old. Don't make him say that.
I am going to take away a point for a very specific scene where in the pool hall, where he's like fighting off the dudes, and he's got one of the dudes in front of him kind of hunched over, and for some reason he decides to just whack him repeatedly on the back with a knife. But he has a knife in his hand. Like if he wants these people dead. If he wants this guy to like get off of him, he can stab him. But he literally just like takes the butt end of a knife and goes like boop, 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 boop on someone's back.
In a stabbing motion.
Like if you did that to me, it would be a little uncomfortable. I wouldn't love it, but like I wouldn't be that hurt unless you really, went for the spine.
Oh,
That was a weird stunt.
It's not thought out. All right. Let's see where we're at. It is 1 up from the last place. It is 25th out of 26.
So it is between Jiu-Jitsu and U.S. Indianapolis Men of Courage. Well,
Jiu-Jitsu.
That's about right.
Jiu-Jitsu
That's where I put
climbing.
it. So yeah, if you are listening to this, we still have Adaptation at number 1. Our guest for the 8mm episode is in the chat, and he says not as good as 8mm. Wow. Yeah, I mean, I think 8mm was terrible, but from what I remember, it had a pretty good cast and some okay acting.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it got a little bit of a bonus, and it wasn't as shoddily made for sure.
Yeah, it was like a hard and kind of like it was like a difficult story, but it was like told in a good way.
It was coherent.
Sense, I think.
Okay, it's time for the Cage Gauge.
Take us away.
We're going to the Cage Gauge. The 2-axis plot of Cage's craziness versus his acting ability in a film. It's the same thing. It's out of 10. This is Cage's specific craziness, like his brand of, Cage crazy. Not him playing someone with mental illness, more inappropriate outbursts, things like that. What would you give?
I think there were about 2.5 instances of the Cage rage.
Oh yeah.
So I'm just trying to think. Yeah, both instances where he like kills someone in one-on-one combat, quote unquote, accidentally, and then the weird situation with his wife. Even a little before that, when he gives her like the death stare as he like leaves the house, and she's like, "Do you want us to like be together so we can mourn?" So I'm gonna give it a 3.
Okay.
I'm gonna be a little more generous with this one. I feel like there was some. I mean, it wasn't the enjoyable kind for sure, but there was some moments where I'm like, "Oh, this is like where he's crying on the roof." There are some moments where he has some Cage craziness, so I think I'm gonna give it a 6.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 7. I mean, he spent a lot of time just beating people up for no reason and screaming at them, and like. That's not nothing. We've got some pretty chill movies in this respect. So like it's definitely above the middle for me.
But it puts us just barely into that craziness, but not too far.
I think that's right.
All right.
So this, yeah, go ahead.
His acting ability. Cage's acting in this film, out of 10.
I think it was it's pretty normal. I think so. I'll give it a 7.
Just not, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't like. I think because there weren't, in my mind, since there weren't a ton of like zany antics from him, he seemed to just be acting like a normal guy acting. Whether or not it was, I'm not saying it's like good acting, or am I saying that?
Yeah, it's how good is the acting?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that it's up to maybe 6 or 7. Let's say I just went backwards. Let's say 5,
Okay.
because it wasn't like crazy and wild. It just seemed like normal, like he was a normal dude. It wasn't like, I don't know. I feel like I'm flipping back and forth on this because I felt like he just seemed like a guy that was sad and dealing with stuff a lot, which is why I initially said 7. But
well, it's more like the quality of his acting. Like for me, so like I'm gonna give it. I like when I watched his scenes, I was like, it felt like he's not a bad actor, but like he was in some scenes with some real bad actors. So I think that did feel like it kind of took the wind out of his sails in some of those scenes. But he was trying. But I'm gonna give his acting a 5 in this film. But
you guys are much more generous than me. I'm gonna give it a 2. I thought he was unbelievable. Not unbelievable. Not believable in all of the legitimate emotions that he was supposed to be feeling when his daughter died. And just I did not think he did a great job acting in this movie.
Yeah. All right. Let's see where it puts us. Ooh, almost dead in the center of the entire Cage. That's interesting. That's it's very close to Face Off in terms of a performance.
Wait,
sorry,
that can't be Face
Sorry,
Off.
The Rock in terms of
yeah, makes
performance.
more sense.
Let me put the titles up. So yeah, it's very close to The Rock. It's in a quadrant with The Wicker Man. You got Moonstruck, Vampire's Kiss, because it's like more crazy but with bad acting. But I feel like the closer you get to the center, the better the movies are. But that's not always true. It's not always true. I guess there's nothing we can really take from this yet.
You should figure out a way to align this graph with our ranking system.
That's my next. Yes, I was thinking exactly what I was gonna do was color code them, get rid of the pick, or maybe do a 3D plot. We'll see.
Yeah, maybe we need a Z-axis here.
We need a Z-axis.
Let's do it.
All right. We did it.
We did it, guys. That's the end of our show. Any closing thoughts on the movie aside from this was terrible? Why did we put ourselves through this, etc.?
Mainly that. Don't watch it.
Don't watch it. Don't watch this movie, guys. You're not missing anything.
I feel like this movie also, like, there's someone would look at the case or the poster for this and just know it's a bad film. Why did we go into watching it? I don't know, but like it just it has that energy of like, oh, this is gonna suck. You know what I mean? So
but it could be like so bad it's good. It could.
Yes,
one of these days.
That's true.
I do appreciate a bad, like something that's so bad it's good. It's not a Cage movie, but The Meg is not great, but it's enjoyable in its in that, right? So
I love that movie.
Yeah.
I love that movie, obviously for it's named after me, but I also read the book when I was younger.
Oh wow.
One of my favorite Icelandic actors is in that movie. It's so stupid. It's just a giant shark. That's bad. That's bad. Unlike the USS Indianapolis, which is Nic Cage's shark movie, where it somehow manages to be boring.
Yeah.
Like how?
I know. Just like they're like in a shipwreck and they get attacked by sharks. All right. Anyway, Shiyan, what's going on with you? Like, what is some stuff you have that you want people to come check out on the internet?
Oh, sorry. I just slammed my hand into the mic. I'm sure that was pleasant for everyone involved. Apologies. Yeah, I do a lot on Twinbee Studios on Twitch. So check me out there. We have a sleepover show every other Saturday night where myself and others do an improv show where we essentially are middle schoolers and dealing with middle school life. The last show we had last night involved the girls getting into chat rooms and learning all about that. Yeah, it was something to behold. I watched it back afterwards, and I think I was like clutching, like literally clutching my pearls the entire time. There's also quarantine access wrestling, quarantine action wrestling rather, on 2MB. There's a whole heck of a lot of shows on there, so just check that out.
So it's twitch.tv/2MB Studios. That's the number 2. If you're listening to this on podcast.
Yeah. It's
lots
really
good.
Lots
of guests, lots of previous guests do stuff on that show, on that channel. Lots of fun stuff. So that's it, guys. So we are taking next week off. We're going to be doing a 3 on 1 off, and this is our number 3 of 3. So we'll be taking the day off, and then we'll be back on May 9th. We are finally watching Ghost Rider with Ben Scaria.
I'm excited.
Who is, one of the creators of 2MB Studios. That's going to be fun. I've never seen Ghost Rider. I'm really excited.
Oh boy, buckle in.
Are there seatbelts on motorcycles though? Can I even?
Should there be? I don't know how motorcycles work.
So we'll be back then, and that's it, guys. Let's all say goodbye.
Good night, everybody.
Bye. Good night.
Enjoy the Oscars.
Yeah.